Hello, hello. Welcome to Coffee Chat with Angie, episode number 9, where we talk about eco-friendly ideas fighting against the shitstorm of the bully dozer. Okay, so what we're doing here is, like I already said on with the previous episode, is that there's a variety of different shows that I'm going to be doing on this show, and this one is called The Library. This is episode 1. So it's the one. It's so on Coffee Chat with Angie. When I have ones that are about biblical subjects, then I'll do that. This is like the Bible chat show, and it's called The Library. And so this is the first episode. One day after a plane crashes into the ocean, and I land on an island, stranded, straight from Kaifa Beach, as I called it, hidden near a palm tree by some sailor of the past. I find a small suitcase, a time capsule. It had few things inside, each of which I cherished, including a King James Version Bible, which I called the library. Stranded on the island, the library became my entertainment, my TV, my friend. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so this is the first episode of the library, and so the library is like the intro says, is about the Bible. So it's logical that the first episode would be about Genesis chapter 1. So that's what this is about Genesis chapter 1. Okay, so what I've planned to do, you know that I use notes, and so I can have everything ready for you before I do an episode. But what I've decided to do on this one is just kind of go naked, like they say, not literally, relax. Biblically. Sometimes naked doesn't mean literally naked, I think. But so I'm just gonna kind of just like talk about it. I'm not even really sure right now what I'm gonna say. Okay. So Genesis chapter 1. So the first thing to know is the Bible. The Bible, like the Bible experts say, the Bible is not univocal. It's the most common mistake believers make with the Bible is they need it to be infallible. That they need it to all. They need the same mind. Since God's the same today, yesterday, and forever, they need to believe the same mind. And God is, the real essence of what's going on with that. Is something. And that's a whole different subject. Like, whoa, I better back up. Um, but okay, so the Bible's not univocal like the the Dan McClellans and the Bart Ehrmans, Karen Armstrongs, the Richard Elliott Friedmans, and the Karen Armstrong. I say that there's a whole bunch of them. I recommend that you spend some time with the Bible scholars, and learn some stuff, and that's especially true when beginning such a thing as Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, we've all heard, is, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and all. It's the creation story, of course, and so the Bible starts with the creation story. So the first thing to know is, there's a first thing to know as far as the story, but before even beginning the story, the first thing to know is that, so the Bible is not univocal, but even within a single book, like the book of Genesis, this is Genesis chapter 1, but the whole Bible isn't the book of Genesis. This is the book of Genesis. 50 chapters, right? 50 chapters. Yep. because 49 is when Jacob blesses his 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel, right? So the book of Genesis is, the word Genesis, they say, means the beginning. When I say they, I mean, like, I'm not sure who's saying that, because, so many things that we've been told are wrong. But nevertheless, it's the beginning of the Bible, so it just kind of makes sense, But I have heard a rabbi talk about the word Genesis, and I just I don't know in Hebrew anywhere near, like that much Hebrew, I mean, I certainly not as much as someone that could speak it. There's all these books, So Genesis has been placed at the beginning for really logical reasons, and some certain implications. So the first thing to know, however, is that Moses, the famous Moses is who's starting the story, And so like you guys might already know this information, but this is I'm using so Genesis. It begins it identifies who the God is, and it gets the ball rolling for the whole rest of the Bible. So it's not just the creation story in the first couple chapters, but it's the beginning of more than even just the context of the story or anything else. It's it gets the ball rolling on everything. That's just the whole style of the Bible, So it's very logical. It's the beginning, okay? But you would to understand the book of Genesis, then you would need to look at the first 5 books of Moses. I mean, the first 5 books of the Old Testament of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And those are called the 5 books of Moses, or just the books of Moses, okay? And so the book of Exodus was Genesis, Exodus. The book of Exodus, the second book, is the story of Moses, okay? And so everything that happens, so the book of Genesis is everything that happens before Moses. So, so really, when you read the Bible and, you're just a human being. Hi, I'm a human being. I'm going to read the Bible. And you read the Bible. What ends up happening is the book of Genesis is because it says right on it, the true title, it says the first book of Moses, called Genesis. So everything I'm saying is just like, if you don't already know this, then you definitely haven't read the Bible, And so Genesis is it would appear, because it's a book of Moses, it's everything Moses either believed, thought or believe, I guess that's the same thing, or that he wanted us to believe, or that whoever's writing a story, if it's pseudepigraphical, or wants us to believe everything that happened, but even more childish, kind of innocent, and just listening to the story. I want to hear the story. I want to hear the story. It's what if you would have asked Moses, tell us. Everything. Tell us about the Bible. It basically was the Bible for Moses, but there was no Bible. It was just all, stories around the campfire and drums and probably smoking cannabis or whatever they did around the fire. Stories that probably started by the mothers, and the fathers took it and made it more political and warlike. Who knows? But see what I mean? So that's what Genesis is. So it's Moses talking about everything he knows, everything that happened before him, and then Moses gets the ball rolling. There's still 3 more books to go after Exodus. Exodus tells the story of the life story of Moses, but it doesn't really end it. It just kind of melts into Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, the last 3 books, and then the story kind of ends at the end of those. You've probably seen my video on my other channel, The Spiral Times, about the other books of Moses, the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th books of Moses. It's my most viewed video I've ever done. It's like over 7,000, like 8,000 something views or something like that. It's like just did better than any video I've done about how there's actually 10 books of Moses. There's one book, the 6th and 7th, and then there's the 8th, 9th, and 10th books of Moses. So you can find that. And then, but for the Bible, here I have the Bible. This is what they want me to read the Bible. There's just 5 books of Moses. For practical purposes, But just know that the other books of Moses, like you'll see, it's just a bunch of, it's the magic in it. It's all the magic seals that Moses used and all the magic words, and it's just kind of the all the wizardy side of Moses stuff that was kind of taken out of it. I'm sure experts would say actually that book was only used 100 years after Jesus or something. It might be. I mean, that's the way things can go with facts and data, you know. But you know, I believe that the Bible is mostly fiction, and it was written at the king's request. Written, the king requested to the priest that the priest take all the scrolls and combine them. Most likely Jeremiah, and then later Ezra, and before Jeremiah there was others. And they were likely all priests, and there was this thing. I imagine always at the king's request, but I know that by Jeremiah's day and then Ezra's day, it was a king request thing, and those they just combed through everything and reorganized everything and kind of shaped it, and not the way we have it. There's still even more steps after that, and there's even more steps in front of the stuff that I mentioned, and blah blah blah, translating in this language and all this stuff. The Bible is just such a mess. To me, it's mostly fiction. I don't need it to be a history book. I don't need it to be a science book. I don't need it to take precedence over science, or or not. I don't know what the right word is. Have more authority over it than science. And then every time all the blah blah blahs that you see and everything. Well, science is corrupt. If the Bible says it, it's true. It's like no. Data and evidence, the things that we learn and discover, we're humans. Learning and discovering is what we do. Our brain and our eyesight are our biggest, the most powerful things that we have. Okay, so Genesis is that. So now, as far as the book of Genesis, so it starts out by saying the creation story. Is this going to be too long? How we started, how the earth was created. So that has some pretty big implications. The implications are that the God of the Bible is the same being that created the entire, at least the solar system. Because I find that it sounds, I believe it's talking about the creation of the solar system, and it is doing that. It is connecting. It's implying that who God is. So now, in the Kabbalah, we learn about the tetragrammaton, the name of Jah. Hebrew, it goes the other direction, so it's Yod, He, and Baal, He, pronounced, most say Yahweh, which is poorly translated as Jehovah, but it's the better said that it means Yahweh. It's cool, Dan McClellan says Adonai, which means like the Lord, because you're not really, Rastas say Jah instead of Yahweh. You're not really supposed to walk around saying Yahweh. It's a complicated subject. I've already mentioned it in many videos. But the God of the Bible, especially from the perspective that I've just established. So you see what's happened? See how important Genesis chapter 1 is? Before I've even gone into, even read the first word, there's all these implications and all these things I have to deal with to even get that far. It's heavy. That's why it's taken me so long to even get to the first. So it says, verse 1, in the beginning God, so Yahweh, but Bible scholars make it clear that, like in Richard Elliott Friedman's book, Who Wrote the Bible, which was where I first learned of these concepts long ago, 1989, I think it was. It might have been 90. It is possible. I've heard. I lost my train of thought. But I've heard a rabbi talk about the Hebrew that in the beginning. So in the conventional Christianity, we say in the beginning. We think it means like in the beginning of time, because God created everything in the beginning of the universe, in the beginning of whatever. which is one of the reasons I believe in the Big Bang, because the Big Bang theory believes that there's no beginning. There was no in the Big Bang theory. There wasn't like all of a sudden. Well, there wasn't nothing. The Big Bang theory is not that there was nothing and all of a sudden boom, there was an explosion and then there was something. Things don't explode out of nothing. The people that actually believe that there was nothing, which science can't defend you. If you're going to believe that there was a time when there was nothing, science, it just goes against everything that we can connect to science with. That just doesn't make sense. I think so that's quite a subject, but you know, when you get into that, what's it called, telepathy, or what's that word? Tele uh, telepathy is that what it is? There's the name of that argument about whether the order of the universe and whether that means God exists and all that stuff like that. So for me, I just the people that say the world is too fantastic. If we were just 5 degrees cooler this way and that, this would happen and that, and everything's so precise and exact. If it was any different, it wouldn't work, and all that. It's like, geez, they finally becomes, they pick it's not the only time, but they pick these weird moments to be incredibly optimistic, because the truth is the universe is filled with violence and chaos and catastrophe and disorder, and there isn't really as much reason as you would think to believe that everything's so orderly and perfect. In all reality, things are actually chaotic, and the whole reason that things evolve. So like if you're a creationist, wow, like maybe I'll do a video on it, on just this subject, because that's a whole thing. It's ridiculous, to believe that. I think that if you look at just everything I've said, the subject of what the Bible actually is, and what that rabbi is saying is where in the beginning in the Hebrew, it doesn't really mean in Hebrew in the beginning like that, So science can't support you, archaeology can't support you, history can't really support you. 6,000 years ago is ridiculous, and we have lots of reason to believe with data that it's just you can believe whatever you want. I'm not trying to make anything illegal, but it's just nope. That's not going to be me that believes that. The Bible is not a book of science. It shouldn't have to be held up to that standard. It's because it's just not what it is. There was a time when the priest had to be the scientist and the only one in the community that even knew how to read and things like that. It's more for reasons like that. So in the beginning doesn't really mean that, and the God, there's two copies. I think the J and the E. The J goes with the God Jehovah, which is the storm God. I recommend Esoterica's did a video on Yahweh, the storm God. I recommend that video. I'll leave a link in the description box, and then you can hear an expert tell you what I believe is exactly what he teaches in that there was a choice of deities, that we started out pagan in our thoughts. Karen Armstrong that's how she begins her book, A History of God. That there was the world, that the Canaanites would have been in a time when there was lots of pagans, and the Canaanites would have been, because their lineage is proven to be from Ham in Genesis chapter 10, the book of generations. The Canaanites were pagans, and the truth is everything comes out of paganism. Everything. Now, there's no such a thing as this pure monotheism, really. Things are born, Karen Armstrong's right, they develop with time, and that monotheism is something that developed out of paganism. So the original concepts of deity was that thunder, but then there has to be a thunder god, because there's thunder. Waves and how powerful the ocean, there has to be an ocean god to represent something so powerful, that there's everything that you can't explain, that there's forces because they are a deity. And then that's why I personally I prefer the deities that have like 4 arms and stuff, because it's more accurate, you know. Like if you think about it, why would a god or a goddess look like a human? It just doesn't. It doesn't really actually make sense because that implies that God is a human, which is uh, then you see. So that's what with time the whole because of the power dynamic they've added in little bits at a time. They've changed the meaning. Anyway, I better hurry up and establish the J and the E first. I'll remember. So there was two texts. The priest said, "Okay, okay, okay. I'll make a creation story," and he had to jumble together the northern kingdom's perspective, the southern kingdom's perspective, and this scroll and this one under my arm and this one, and I'll go over, and I got a coffee maker, that I can do on the pot over there on the fire in the corner of that brim, and it's a nice place, and okay, we can put this together. Okay, so so the first problem is that they don't even worship the same deity. The Southern Kingdom worships Elohim, and that's why we call their record the E. And the Northern Kingdom, together with which is the Southern Kingdom is like Judah, and the Northern Kingdom is like all the other tribes. Like one of them's with Judah. I can't remember which one, but and the priests are Levi. And so the priests and Shiloh and all that, that's like the northern kingdom and all that, So they had their different records. And so they Jeremiah, and I'm not sure how much of that was done by him or maybe another priest before him, brings these together and has to make it sound like it's all the same deity, And I'm not sure at what point we started believing that Yahweh, because Yahweh was a storm god, so it explained the storms, and it was a god of war, So that's why early in the Old Testament there's all this bloodshed and everything, because that's back then. So people I don't think people realized why a human sacrifice. Why did they worship do human sacrifices, even babies, and burning babies? That's like the most evil, horrible thing ever. It's because it's when all gods are created by the hand of mankind. So when we bring something in, there would have the concept still had to be brought in by the hand of mankind or womankind. Had to be brought in that way, and so they would have had to have organized it enough to vocalize it and share it to people, something that you can't really put into words type thing, So, okay, I just paused the recording and checked. Wow, we're at 22 minutes. Yeah, this is quite a subject. Okay, so the J was Yahweh, and the E was Elohim. Elohim, the beginning, the L part is something that spun off, because you take things when you put things into words, something that's unexplainable, like I was saying, you take things. So the E, they took L, the which is the effigy of the bull, the most high god of their pantheon. It was El. So in Hebrew and in the worship of the Hebrew people's God, Yahweh, it becomes Yahweh soon after this. They say El. El means like the strong one or the mighty one. Like El Shaddai or El Elyon or these. Like that. El Shaddai, which means the mighty one that's nourishing, the nourisher, and Yahweh El Elyon is the mighty one that's most high or something like that, and and then if you've been in the Middle East, my family was in Saudi Arabia a lot of my life, so I've been there 5 times, and names of roads and things like that. It's like Aladdin, Al-Aladdin, and Rub al-Khali. It's like things are like El and Al and in their names, and Lionel, and not just in those languages, but you see this El when a lot, and so that all comes from the Canaanites, who at one point were the strongest people, and their god was Elohim. And Judah was the biggest tribe, and Judah was the southern tribe, and they were the darker skin of the tribes. and they blended down into Egypt. We know Solomon had control of Ethiopia and gave it to the Queen of Sheba, his son, his Queen of Sheba's son, and his son, Menelik the first king of Ethiopia. So anyway, he had to take the J and the E, and there were two records, and their stories sometimes were different. That's why, like with the story of Noah, he sends out a dove. Remember, and the dove. When the dove comes back with some evidence that there's land, then they'll know that there's land somewhere. It comes back with an olive branch in its mouth. But then at one point, a raven is let loose. If you're like, oh, what? It doesn't say that. Well, read it. Yeah. It's a dove, but at one point, a raven is let loose. So Bible scholars know that it's because one is so. The southern kingdom, I believe it was, is the story of the raven. Noah sent out a raven, and so first of all, Jeremiah had to decide, what's the name of the God going to be, Elohim or Yahweh, and so obviously Yahweh is the said this, much later, from our perspective, we think a long time ago. See, so the Bible's not univocal, see, or you couldn't accept that concept. You'd say, no, the exact mind and word, every syllable of the Bible, that mind was floating in outer space, and there was nothing except that mind. There was the Bible, and then it said, because there wasn't words yet, and it vibrated out, and it created everything, and let there be light, and then all that. It's like, no. Gods are made by the hand of mankind to explain unexplainable things. These people didn't know anything about that we know in modern science today. If you would have gave them the microphone to answer any of the questions that we need answered by science today, they wouldn't know what they were talking about. They weren't scientific experts that are even superior over the modern scientists of today. So he took the E and that, and there's the attribute names, that so like it's Yahweh, but then it says Yahweh El Elyon, Yahweh the mighty one, Yahweh the nourisher, Yahweh El Shaddai the nourisher, Yahweh El Olam, the Rock of Ages, or the forever and ever, or whatever. Okay, blah blah blah. Okay, so anyway, so in the beginning, God. So that's the first four words. In the beginning, God. So first of all, not a scientist. That's not what the Hebrew means anyway. God. Which God are we even talking about? So, it's supposed to be, it's been pasted and glued together, and not just in Genesis, but all the way through the Bible. It's been put together, and this book and this book is combined with a couple sentences in between to combine them so it can look like one book, and all these artistic liberties and all these fictions and all these things and all these true things. And the writer might not even always know what those true things are together, okay? So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So the heaven and the earth. We're at 28 minutes right now. So right now, I'm actually reading the Bible. So that was, I'm going to have to do this in two parts. So this is a logical place to probably end part one, and then I'll continue on part two and get right into the Bible thing, so that it's real logical and easy just to get to the good stuff. But yeah, so to me, to nutshell everything up that's said in this episode, to me, God is not a man in the sky. That's something they invented in the evolution of creating this deity for a power struggle. Because if you can say that God is one name, one voice, this book is his name, and we represent this system of this man in the sky who talks through this person, the Pope or the Bishop or the President or the Prophet or whatever, talks through this person, and the whole system is all infallible and has been the same forever and ever, and has always been the same in every word of the Bible from the beginning. When it says in the beginning God, it means the same God that from the same mind and the same description exactly as it has all the way through the Bible, all the way to the last word of the Bible. Incorrect. And so again, listen to the scholars and the data. If you want to get really realistic about it, because that's what it is. To check out the data before you claim to be an expert of it. What do we know? Okay, well that's just because people know something doesn't make it true. It's like, yeah, true. But that's just more reason to believe that God's not a man in the sky. Because should any one thing have that much power for something that there's just no evidence of? And is it sidestepping responsibility? Because what I believe with the Kabbalah, we learn that Yahweh, which is who I'm to, when I'm just an innocent human reading the Bible, this God that everybody thinks is so cool, Yahweh is fire, water, air, and earth. So the whole Kabbalah is based on the information in this, the oldest written Kabbalah, the Sefer Yetzirah, which talks about what Yod He Vav He, Yahweh, what the tetragram is called, or the tetragrammaton, is what it means, and that's fire, water, air, and earth, and they're the forces within, and it plugs it into the tarot and the Sephiroth, and so the tarot, if you've ever seen a deck, has the aces, which are like the number one, the two of each suit, cups, so there's wands for fire, there's cups for water, there's swords for air, and there's either pentacles or coins for earth, and that's YHWH, Yahweh. And then there's four energies: fire, water, air, and earth. And we connect with Jah within. It's obvious that in the beginning it wasn't a man in the sky. That they added that, maybe Jeremiah did, or one of the priests. I don't know. If I were to guess, I would say, well, with the limited data that I have as a non-scholar, I guess I'm going to have to guess Jeremiah. But I know that there were priests before. I've heard the P1, the P2, and the P3. Jeremiah is the P3, and Jeremiah is the P2, and Ezra is the P3, and the P1 is believed to be maybe more than one priest. So, and it's even less understood or can be proven, or the opinion is less univocal over whether that's one person or two or however many people. So it just kind of blurs off into oblivion because we just told these were stories. It was an oral tradition, and so at one point, and that's a whole subject. I should not go that direction. That's just a whole other subject. It would take maybe even longer to talk about. But it's like, what personally, the tarot deck and the Kabbalahs I like more, and it's more of a thing in my personal life and lifestyle than the Bible is. But the Bible's huge. I love the Bible, and you'll be able to see that. This is episode 1. As I walk through the Bible, you'll see that I've clearly lived a life where I've thought about it and actually read the Bible and blah blah blah. So yeah, as my reference is the Kabbalah, I call it, because I learn things by reading. But most of what I know, I knew before I even had a phone with internet. These are things I learned from books. The things that I know, I learn things every day about this very subject all the time on a regular day. 3 to 5 videos, maybe even from these experts. I'm their biggest fan. I listen to all their videos and everything, and I'm constantly adding to what I know about that from what they can teach me. Quite a subject, but no, God is not a man in the sky. That's even more fiction, and it makes it look like the Bible is infallible, and it really sets you down the wrong road. And there's lots of suffering and deaths and torturing. There's like the most unspeakable possibilities. I believe that there was a time when people, I was talked about, I brought it up briefly about in the creation of these gods, you make something up. Maybe you say it's a man in the sky. Maybe you say it's a clay figure you made. Maybe you say it's someone in a story that becomes a legend, a myth that you tell, and that's where the spirit of that god is, or whatever. And we still do this today, and we've always done that, and that's who God's always been. So in that sense, in the beginning, God was in, like we do. That's the same creative force that the universe uses to create the universe. The same exact force that God uses, and that's why it says that. It's because it's such a safe bet. If the most pure, if our biggest power is our brain, because we're humans, and that's words really, and when we're born we don't know our mother tongue, but then we learn it. Like mine's English, so when I was born I didn't speak English at first, but then I learned English, and now I think in English. Not everything single thought's 100% words, but mostly I even think in English like everyone else. And that's not even a language that I knew before, but I know that I thought before I knew English, right? And so that's what the whole point of the Kabbalah is, that it's learning what the number 1 through 10 mean. And number 1 is the purest thing at the top of the tree of life. The Sephiroth is it's not matter. It's beyond that. It's on the other side of the abyss, and it's at the top of the supernulls across the abyss, all the way to the top. And then there's the negative vels, that we break into 3 just because we just don't know what else to do about it, because it's just so far up there. And just like how thoughts are created, and things create out of that. So in the beginning implies that the universe was created with thoughts too, and it wasn't, because like I said, you don't know English before when you're a baby, but you do think. Okay. It's just the thing that's chaos, isn't it? That something existed before you thought it, but then you thought it, and then you created it. But it already existed before that, but yet still it's as good as we can do. That's like for example, if I want to make a cake, I want a green cake. That's a realistic goal. I can have a green cake in my hands probably by the end of the day if I go to the store and buy the things, and if I don't know how to make it, follow the directions and make it. And it might suck, but I can have a green cake by the end of the day, or maybe they'll be out and it will turn out blue. So as you go down the tree, sometimes things don't always turn out. Number 10 is manifest form. Number 1 is the idea, and then so number 1, 2, and 3 is above the abyss, and it's beyond us, but it's connected to us, because number 4 and YHWH, Yahweh, is 4 letters. Is the first number 4, Kesed, across the abyss, and so. So you can look at my playlist about the tarot, How to Tarot, and after the intro thesis statements, I've got to go over each card of the tarot, and that's really what the Kabbalah is all about. And it all breaks down into Yahweh, the 4 suits with the minor arcana, and then the major arcana are added in. I believe there are concepts that come from Egypt, and I already did a video on that on my How to Tarot playlist, which I have on both channels if you look for it. But right at the top on my Rasta Witch channel. I have, the data, it appears in the Catholics agree. They say, yeah, we believe that God the Father Spirit. And I basically believe in I believe in the Trinity. Haile Selassie, I believe in the power of the Trinity. Haile Selassie, that we connect within. The I is within us, and I, it's within all of us, and the most I is Jah, who can come in the flesh as a demigod. So Jesus, Melchizedek, Yahweh, Melchizedek, Yahushua, Jesus, and Yahushua is the Hebrew of the name Jesus. So Jesus, Melchizedek before him, and then Haile Selassie recently. Are demigods. So the Christians got that wrong, and some of them believe that they're even beyond flesh, that Jesus was beyond even that. And, no, I go the other direction. Jesus was just a demigod, was just the carrier, the vessel of the message that was needed to bring us in our evolution as we're this evolving God that we're creating it, as a more modern explanation of who Yahweh is. That started out, remember, as we didn't even have it as one name. It's just not an univocal, uh, like rolling a snowball. The snowball wasn't done by one person. A whole bunch of people joined in, and it got really big, and a bunch of people pushed it into a giant snowball, and then they made another one, and then made it into a giant snowman and everything. And that's the Bible. That's the library. See, that's why I call this the library, because it's many books, many voices, many translations. It's a whole library of voices. It's not one book. And was Moses a historical figure? I've done videos on that. Look at my Bible discussions playlist on my Rostowich channel. Man, I go over Moses and what I really think about that. So altogether, I'll leave a link in my description box of my Bible discussion playlist where I have references and documentaries and just me talking about all of these things and everything. So we've defined who the God of the Bible is. That it's not an univocal concept in any way, but it goes with Yahweh. And so since we're just reading the Bible, because the Kabbalah and the Tarot and all these things, they are all connected. There's no reason to separate them, really. Especially once you realize God's just spirit within, and then you learn the Kabbalah and you realize that even though the Kabbalah isn't as old as the book of Genesis, and those stories are even older than the book of Genesis. The stories of Genesis are older than that, even. Even though the Kabbalah is not that old, though some believe it was, I'll go over that, whispers of the angels as Adam left the Garden of Eden. The God of the Bible is not a man in the sky, and is not infallible, and is not univocal, and is not the same today, yesterday, and forever. It evolves by the hand of man every step of the way, under inspiration, they say. Blah 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 blah, blee 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 blah blue 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 blue. Who cares? Blah 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 blah. Inspiration. It's inspired. So is everything else. I was inspired to do this video. It's blasphemous. And it's like, are you saying you're as good as Matthew? And it's like, oh my hell! I just don't. I'm saying that I don't care because I'm not going to believe that anytime soon. Any of those concepts. You might as well go tell someone that's, like, no. The things that I've said in this episode right now, it's all linked with science and facts and data and archaeology. Like it's can all be referenced with extreme power, and I've given unique, things on who God is and everything and how it all fits together. So it's heavy. Don't forget about the chaos message. Things aren't, it's good to be optimistic. I'm the first one to say it, and I live my life proving that I believe in optimism. I try to be, and now I'm optimistic, but no, there's suffering and chaos everywhere, at every step of there always was. Things come out of chaos. They don't come out of order. They don't come out of order like they do when you create things with your mind. Okay? In the beginning, was it created in our mind? Not in our minds, but in our effort to try to realize the meaning of the number one all the way across the abyss, we need to have much respect for it. That it is connected to a force that is the higher power. There is a higher power. There is something beyond me that I'm connected to within. And that's who Jah is, which is short for Yahweh, which is fire, water, air, and earth. We connect with these forces and the God that we know there's fire, water, the ocean is the most powerful thing, air and earth, and what that means so God still was the storm god, and now we've systemized the storm god to mean all the different forces in nature and things that are beyond us that we can't really explain quite as much as maybe a baby would wish. Or not a baby. Probably would have to be kind of old. But anyway, so I better, whoa, it's been the longest episode I've ever done. I might have to already make this 2 episodes. Wow. Okay. See ya. I'm not sure. Maybe this is the end of episode 3. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, you guys. But I'm gonna push the stop button. Have a good day.